see how we can water cattle for free with the energy-free solution, the Frostfree nose pump. This pump was designed and is supported by a cattle producer and his family who have successfully used this pump summer and winter over the past 14 years. The pump is a downhole piston pump that brings water up with each stroke of the nose pump by the animal. If installed correctly, it will not freeze. Let's see why it will not freeze. It will depend partly on the depth and the diameter of the culvert. It requires a minimum 24-inch diameter culvert, 18 to 20 feet in the ground, an insulation sleeve, a drain hole, an insulation and cement pad around the culvert, and a frost break between the pad and the culvert. By doing these things, you will be guaranteed that this pump will not freeze. The insulation sleeve is made from 2 4x8 sheets of closed-cell rigid insulation, which is then slid down inside the culvert. Instructions are provided for customers to make their own. This is an example of a 20 by 20 pad with insulation on the ground ready for the concrete. Why doesn't the trough freeze? There's a nipple inside the trough that prevents any water from going back down into the water source. So what stops that water from freezing? The reason ice doesn't accumulate in that trough is because when you look at a video of the cattle pumping or you look at animals pumping, you'll see that they drink at the back of the pump after each stroke, and they leave very little water in the trough. Any water that is left in the trough may freeze, but it doesn't accumulate because of all of the activity in that trough. So let's look at 4 different applications for the Frostfree nose pump. The first application is a drilled or excavated large diameter well. A hole is either drilled or dug by a track hoe, a minimum 18 to 20 feet in the ground, with a 24-inch diameter culvert. The culvert is perforated at the bottom, sealed with bentonite and clay, and this serves as the well. The second example is over an existing small diameter well. An excavation is done around the existing casing, and the culvert is installed below the frost line 9 or 10 feet. We can get away with a shallower culvert in this case because there is heat coming up the existing casing. A third example is to utilize the nose pump with a dugout or pond by trenching from the dugout over to the culvert and having the water gravity flow, creating a wet well beside the dugout. And lastly, it is also possible to use the Frostfree nose pump with a pressure system. By using a pitless adapter and a float, the level of water can be maintained in the bottom of the culvert to keep the foot valve in water at all times. Training the livestock. It's recommended to start with a small group at first and then let that group train the rest of the animals. The nose pump must be the only source of water in order for them to learn how to use it. The back position on the pump could be a training advantage to make it a little easier to push. And when there aren't severe freezing temperatures, the drain hole can be plugged so the animals get water immediately, and you can pump the trough full of water so the animals can recognize that it is a power source, water source. Once installed, you can water your cattle for free. They will have access to water 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, without the use of electricity or heat. Water is the most important nutrient to cattle, and it can have many health and production effects on your herd. There are definitely economic gains to providing an unlimited supply of high quality, clean, fresh water. The water temperature may also affect the water intake by cattle. Research has shown that cool water helps cattle maintain a proper body temperature in the summertime and can help increase weight gains. Bacteria, viruses, and parasites are common in dugouts that allow cattle to access them, similar to this photo here. These can cause a number of problems and production losses. A large insulated cement pad sealed around the culvert is required to protect the well from contamination. And because the water cannot flow back down into the water source, the Frostfree nose pump also protects the water. There are no electrical components to fail with the Frostfree nose pump, and nothing to replace for years to come. It is very durable, constructed of powder-coated steel. There are no heating elements, batteries, or panels to maintain. It is very simple and very reliable. The pump can be moved from location to location with care, and we recommend up to 100 head per unit. This is an example of 4 pumps on a 24-inch culvert, watering a cow herd of about 400. The pump has proven itself well over 14 Canadian winters in hundreds of locations around North America. Our customers tell us that even in minus 50 degrees Celsius, the pump continues to work. We'll just look at a few illustrations quickly. A customer near Rimbey, 2 nose pumps on a 24-inch culvert. That would water a herd of 200 head or 100 pair. This pump helps to keep animals out of dugouts, ponds, creeks, and rivers, and we then have dugouts, as this example is, that is crystal clear water. We also do get calls from many producers who have lost animals in dugouts on the ice, and the nose pump will prevent that from happening again. In remote areas where no power is available, it really shines. It eliminates the need for power, even in cold temperatures. When cattle are calving, it's great to get them out of barnyards that are contaminated from wintertime feeding and help avoid any sickness. What about calves? Our own experience, over 14 years of watching the well-being of our calves very carefully, we have found that as their demands for fluid intake increases, they start to learn the nose pump from the cow. The research project at Olds College confirmed this. Our own data on calves on pasture over the past 12 years show that steer calves gained an average of 3.3 pounds a day on pasture, and steer heifer calves an average of 3.1 pounds a day on pasture. This is with a Frostfree nose pump as their only source of water. The Olds College research project done in 2006, using the Frostfree nose pump and a control group, found that both groups were almost identical in rate of gain. The depth of the culvert is very important, and this is one example of a 12-foot culvert that was difficult to prevent from freezing. Also, you can see the need for a cement pad to prevent a muddy hole where cattle water in the summertime and prevent compaction in the wintertime. When assessing the comparable value of the Frostfree nose pump livestock waterer, it's imperative that 2 very important factors are taken into consideration. Once the livestock watering system is properly installed, your spending stops. There are absolutely no input costs, such as a monthly power bill, or panels, batteries, pumps, motion sensors, heating elements, and other things to maintain. You can literally water your livestock for free at that point. Also, there are often grants available for helping with the installation costs. This is taken right off of our website, giving an example of the approximate pricing of the customer doing all of the work or having a nose pump installed. The cost to run the nose pump are zero. Our own experience over 15 years with many hundreds of customers, we find that we very seldom have to do any repairs. We have replaced a few cylinders, but it is minor. The pros of the Frostfree nose pump. It's relatively inexpensive to install and is zero cost to run. It works winter and summer. It's very dependable as it's not reliant on sun, wind, or power. It's perfect for remote areas without any power source. The only maintenance on the pump is tapping off ice on the unit when we have minus 25 degrees Celsius or colder. No attention is required if it's not being used. The cons of the pump: it does take some effort to install the culvert. You do need to train cattle, but this should be about a 2 or 3 day event, and there are some tips to make it easier. There are many testimonials on our website from customers around the continent.